A 7-year-old girl stands frozen at a crowded carnival, completely alone as strangers rush past. Her mother had taught her one unusual rule. If you're lost, find someone with motorcycle patches. Now she had to find out if that advice still held true. Soon after approaching a gray-bearded biker, 30 more bikers would transform an entire town forever. The Harborview Pier Carnival was packed that summer night. You could barely move without bumping into someone. Music blasted from rides, kids screamed on the roller coaster, and the smell of funnel cakes hung in the air. Not the kind of place you'd want to lose track of your kid. But that's exactly what happened to June Tucker. For years, June had drilled a strange lesson into her daughter's head. "Find a police officer if you're lost," she'd say. "But if you can't find one, look for someone with motorcycle patches." This always confused Lily's teachers when she'd mention it at school. Most parents teach their kids to avoid bikers, not seek them out. But June had her reasons. 11 years back, before Lily was even born, a group of bikers had found June stranded on Highway 16. She was 3 months pregnant, running from Lily's violent father with nothing but a broken-down car and bruises that hadn't yet faded. Those leather-vested riders fixed her car, handed her cash for a motel, and made sure she reached safety. They'd asked for nothing in return, just told her to help someone else someday if she could. June never forgot that night. Before then, she'd been like most people in Harborview, crossing the street whenever bikers rode through town. Her own father had warned her that those people meant trouble. But that rainy night had shown her something different. Those leather-clad strangers hadn't just fixed her car. They'd formed a protective circle while one of them worked, making sure her ex wouldn't find her if he came looking. When a female rider named Clara had noticed her bruises, she'd simply squeezed June's hand and said, "Whatever you're running from, you don't have to go back." After that night, June finished nursing school, got a job at the VA hospital, and eventually moved back to Harborview to raise Lily. She never saw those bikers again. But that night changed how she saw the world. And she made sure Lily would know it too. Angels in leather. That's what they'd been to her. Now her daughter was about to put that long-ago lesson to the test. Lily clutched her cotton candy as panic built in her chest. 1 minute her mom had been right beside her, the next, gone. A bunch of teenagers had burst through the funhouse exit, pushing between them like a human tidal wave. She had called for her mom until her throat hurt, but no one heard her over the carnival noise. She'd already tried to find security, but the guard she spotted disappeared into the crowd before she could reach him. From somewhere nearby came the screams from the tilt-o-whirl. Colored lights flashed across faces that all looked strange and unfamiliar. A clown wandered past, not even noticing the little girl fighting back tears. Lily had never felt so small and invisible in her life. Earlier that night, Lily had seen a group of bikers hanging out near a bar at the far end of the boardwalk. Their motorcycles lined up outside a weathered place called the Rusty Anchor. While other parents pulled their kids closer when passing them, her mom had actually nodded hello to these scary-looking people. Taking a deep breath, Lily started pushing through the crowd toward the Rusty Anchor. As she got closer, the carnival music faded, replaced by the rumble of motorcycles and rock music from the bar. Outside stood about a dozen men and women in leather vests covered with patches she didn't understand. They looked tough, tattoos, beards, and the kind of faces that had seen rough times. A couple passing by stared at Lily heading toward the bikers. The woman grabbed her husband's arm, whispering something, but they just kept walking. Another reminder that in a crowd this big, a lost child was somebody else's problem. One man stood out, tall with a gray beard that reached down to his chest. Despite looking like he could bench press a car, his eyes had smile lines around them. He was talking with a woman who had silver streaks in her dark hair. Lily hesitated at the edge of the group. Her mom had always been confident about this advice, but actually standing before these intimidating strangers made her wonder if she'd misunderstood. Maybe she should just keep looking for a security guard. But then she remembered her mom's absolute certainty whenever she'd repeated this lesson. Taking another deep breath, she pushed forward. "Excuse me," Lily said, barely audible as she tugged on his vest. The big man didn't hear her at first. "Excuse me," she tried again, pulling harder. He turned around, looking annoyed until he spotted her. In an instant, his expression changed to concern. He dropped down to her level, a huge man suddenly making himself small for a frightened child. "Hey there, little lady," he said in a voice that was rough but surprisingly gentle. "You okay?" "I can't find my mom," Lily said as tears started falling. "She told me if I ever got lost to find someone with motorcycle patches." The man's eyebrows shot up, but he nodded like this made perfect sense. "Your mom sounds pretty smart. I'm Hank. What's your name?" "Lily Tucker." "And your mom's name?" "Lily. June Tucker. She has short dark hair and a blue jean jacket." Hank stood up and let out a whistle so sharp it cut through all the noise around them. Every biker in the area turned toward him instantly. "Missing parent situation," he announced with the kind of authority that didn't need to be shouted. "Little Lily here can't find her mom, June Tucker. Dark hair, denim jacket." What happened next blew Lily's mind. Without a single question or hesitation, the bikers immediately organized themselves. The silver-haired woman knelt beside Lily. "I'm Clara," she said. "I'll stay with you while everyone else looks for your mom." "Okay," Lily nodded, watching in amazement as Hank fired off directions to the others like a general deploying troops. "Vince, take the midway. Denny and Kate, check the rides. Marcus, hit the food stands." He kept going, with each biker nodding and immediately moving out. "Keep your phones on Channel 3. We're looking for June Tucker, dark short hair, denim jacket, mother to Lily here." Within minutes, 20 bikers were spreading through the carnival. A search party that formed without anyone questioning why or how. Clara sat with Lily on a bench, occasionally speaking into her phone to coordinate the search. "Your mom actually taught you to find people like us if you got lost?" Clara asked, sounding surprised but pleased. Lily nodded. "She said you helped her once a long time ago." "Did she say how we helped her?" "No, just that it was before I was born." Clara smiled, wrapping an arm around Lily. "Well, we're very glad you remembered what she taught you. A lot of people wouldn't have." As they waited, the bikers still at the rusty anchor formed a protective circle around Lily. One of them handed her a fresh ice cream cone to replace her squished cotton candy. Two others stationed themselves at the boardwalk entrance, watching for any suspicious characters who might approach a vulnerable child. "Don't worry, little one," an older biker with a bushy white beard told her. "If your mom is anywhere on this boardwalk, our people will find her." Meanwhile, June was frantic. She'd been searching desperately since Lily disappeared, pushing through crowds and checking every ride and food stand. Her mind kept flashing to every parent's worst nightmare, a child vanishing without a trace. But June refused to let panic take over. Lily was smart. She'd remember what she'd been taught. Finally, June approached a police officer who was chatting with a carnival employee. "My daughter is missing," June interrupted, her voice tight with fear. 7 years old, brown curly hair, red t-shirt, jeans. "We got separated near the fun house." Officer Richard Simmons sighed, like this was an inconvenience, reaching slowly for his radio. "Name and description again." June repeated the information, fighting the urge to grab his radio and call it in herself. Every minute felt like an eternity. "We'll put out an alert," Simmons said, clearly not sharing her urgency. "But honestly, ma'am, she's probably just wandered off to another ride. Kids do this all the time at these events." Before June could argue, she noticed a commotion. People were stepping aside as a large man in a leather vest pushed purposefully through the crowd. "Excuse me," she said to the officer, already moving toward the biker. She recognized those patches. "Ma'am, I need to finish taking your—" Officer Simmons called after her, but June was already gone. "Excuse me," she called to the biker. "I'm looking for my daughter." The man turned, his face lighting up. "You June Tucker?" "Yes." Hope surged through her. "Have you seen Lily?" "She found us," he explained, already pulling out his phone. "Smart kid remembered what you taught her. I'm Hank. She's safe with Clara back at the Rusty Anchor." As he called the others, June noticed the patch on his vest. A phoenix rising from a wrench, the exact same patch she'd seen through rain-streaked windows 11 years ago. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "I can't believe she actually remembered." "Good thing she did," Hank replied as they hurried through the crowd. "Most people teach their kids to run from folks like us." "Most people don't know what I know," June said quietly. When they reached the Rusty Anchor, June spotted Lily sitting with a biker woman licking an ice cream cone. The moment Lily saw her mother, she jumped up and ran. "Mom!" she cried, throwing herself into June's arms. June held her daughter tight, fighting back tears. "You remembered what I taught you." "The motorcycle people helped, just like you said they would," Lily said, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. Around them, bikers were returning from all directions. The search called off. June looked up at the leather-clad men and women surrounding them, feeling overwhelming gratitude. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "You organized the search party for a complete stranger." "Not exactly strangers," Clara said, approaching with a curious look. "You said we helped you before?" June studied the silver-streaked woman, recognition slowly dawning. "Highway 16, 11 years ago. Pouring rain. I was 3 months pregnant, running from Lily's father after he put me in the hospital. You stopped, fixed my car, gave me money for a hotel, made sure I got somewhere safe." Clara's face broke into a smile. "The clinic nurse. I thought you looked familiar. You're the one who squeezed my hand and told me I didn't have to go back." "I never forgot that," June finished. "And now you're teaching your little one to trust us too," Clara said, glancing at Lily with approval. "Not many would." "You changed my life that night," June said. "That's why I always taught Lily to trust you if she needed help." Officer Simmons had followed June and now stood watching with obvious disapproval. "Ma'am," he called out, "is everything all right here?" "Everything's fine, officer," June replied. "These people found my daughter." The officer looked skeptical. "These people?" "Yes," June said firmly. "They organized and found my daughter in 20 minutes flat. They were efficient, kind, and exactly who she needed." Officer Simmons shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his belt. He opened his mouth, then closed it again before walking away without another word. Hank chuckled. "Some things never change. Now, how about we escort you ladies to your car? Getting late for little ones." June accepted gratefully. As they walked through the carnival, people stared at the unusual sight. A mother and child surrounded by a protective circle of bikers. Some parents pulled their children closer, others whispered behind their hands, but a few people seemed to recognize that something special was happening and offered small smiles. Among those watching was Walter Fleming, who owned Fleming's Diner on Main Street. He'd always been wary of bikers passing through town, warning his waitresses to watch the register whenever they came in. But seeing them surrounding this mother and child protectively made him question some long-held assumptions. As a business owner in Harborview for 30 years, Walter had complained plenty about those motorcycle gangs scaring away customers, but the scene unfolding before him didn't match that narrative. These weren't troublemakers. They were protecting a child and her mother. When one of them caught Walter staring, the man gave him a respectful nod instead of the threatening glare he'd expected. Angels in leather, Walter thought to himself, surprising himself with the idea. The next morning, word had already started to spread throughout Harborview. The story of what happened at the carnival traveled from house to house, growing with each telling. June took Lily to Fleming's for their regular weekend breakfast. They'd just settled into a booth when the bell above the door jingled. Hank walked in, followed by Clara and 2 other bikers. The diner went silent. Fleming's was the town's most popular breakfast spot, and all the regulars were there, including Officer Simmons at the counter. The bikers hesitated, sensing the tension. June waved them over. "Hank, Clara, join us." The invitation broke the awkward moment. The bikers made their way to June's booth, with Hank sliding in beside Lily, who grinned up at him. "Just wanted to check on the little lady," Hank explained. "We're doing great, thanks to all of you," June replied. Walter Fleming approached with a coffee pot. After a moment's hesitation, he filled cups for the bikers. "Heard what you folks did at the carnival," he said gruffly. "Finding the little girl?" "Just doing what anyone would do," Clara replied. "Not anyone?" Fleming corrected. "Most people would have walked past, too busy with their own fun." He sat down the pot. "Breakfast is on the house today." From the counter, Officer Simmons watched with a frown. "Careful, Walt. Next thing you know, you'll have motorcycles lining the street and scaring off your regulars." "Seemed to me," Fleming replied loudly. "These folks were pretty good at finding a lost child. Better than some others I could mention." Officer Simmons flushed red, slapped some money on the counter, and walked out. Over breakfast, June shared more about how the bikers had helped her all those years ago, giving her the courage to rebuild her life, go to nursing school, and eventually return to Harborview to raise Lily. "I work at the VA hospital now," she explained. "Probably treated some of your members without even realizing it." "Small world," Hank nodded. That's actually why we came through town yesterday, Clara added. Annual ride to raise money for the VA's PTSD program. We've got 50 bikes heading down to Charleston for the main event next weekend. 50 bikes? Walter asked, pausing as he refilled their coffee cups. Veterans from all over, Hank confirmed. We raised almost $30,000 last year. Walter's eyebrows shot up. This clearly didn't match the reputation bikers had in Harborview. By the time they finished eating, several other diners had approached their table, curious about the events at the carnival. The story of how quickly the bikers had organized to find a lost child was spreading through town like wildfire. Could have been my granddaughter, an elderly woman told Clara. My Jessie's always wandering off at those events. If she ever does, ma'am, tell her to look for the patches, Clara said with a smile. We take care of kids. 3 weeks later, Harborview looked a little different. The Fleming's Diner sign had been repainted, and underneath, in smaller letters, it now read, All Welcome. The parking lot had been restriped to include special motorcycle spaces. Where townspeople had once crossed the street to avoid leather vests, they now offered nods or even friendly greetings. And it wasn't just a few peaceful breakfasts. When old Mrs. Peterson's roof started leaking badly, a group of bikers spent their weekend fixing it for free. When the elementary school needed volunteers for their fundraiser, 6 leather-clad riders showed up to help. People were starting to see beyond the patches and tough exteriors to the community beneath. Lily had received a special gift from Clara, a small denim vest with a patch reading, Protected by the Road Family. She wore it proudly to Fleming's every weekend, where they'd often join Hank and other bikers she'd come to call her other family. One Saturday, while Lily was chatting with Hank about motorcycles, Walter Fleming slid into the booth next to June. Never thought I'd see it, he said, nodding toward the mix of bikers and locals filling his diner. Used to get nervous whenever I saw those vests coming. People are usually more than what they seem, June replied. Sometimes it just takes one moment for everyone to see it. Like a little girl getting lost at a carnival, Walter agreed. Funny how life works. You know, June said thoughtfully, Lily's school is having career day next month. They're looking for people with interesting jobs to come talk to the kids. Walter raised an eyebrow. You thinking what I think you're thinking? June smiled. I think some children might benefit from meeting the real people behind those scary leather vests. Don't you? A month after the carnival, Harborview Elementary's career day featured an unexpected guest. Hank, standing before a classroom of wide-eyed second graders, his vest covered in patches that suddenly seemed less intimidating as he patiently explained what each one meant. When one little boy asked if bikers were bad guys, Hank knelt down to his level. We're just regular folks who love our motorcycles, he explained. And whenever we see someone who needs help, especially kids, we always stop. That's our most important rule. In the back of the classroom, June watched with tears in her eyes as her daughter proudly introduced Hank to her classmates. This is my friend Hank, Lily had said. He's got patches and promises and he